hearing scheduled in the case of Jessica Kilburn with regard to the dangerous dog claim against the dog Khaleesi. This is case number 2022-5656, according to my records of the Putnam County Animal Control Division. This hearing was requested by Ms. Kilburn and her attorney in response to the requirements of both Chapter 2018-09 of the Putnam County Code, specifically Section 631, as well as similar section 767.10 of the Florida statutes, which parrots the county code almost exactly. As my understanding, we are here on a dangerous dog determination. Is that correct? Let me get some preliminaries out of the way and make sure we're on the same page as to what we're doing today.
This is not a preliminary. This is an appeal. It's actually their attorney.
Well, let me back up. My inquiry was, this is the first dangerous dog designation for this dog by the county?
Correct.
You're going to need to speak a little closer to that mic because I'm having trouble hearing you. They're parabolic, basically. You got to get pretty close to them. Make sure everybody get a record. And speak loudly. The court reporter is making a follow-up tape of this, and we will make sure everyone is heard. So this is the first designation of dangerous dog on this animal by the county. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And this was following an investigation by the code enforcement officer, animal control officer concerning this animal. Is that correct?
Could I ask that the speaker identify himself for the record, please?
I'm sorry?
Sorry?
I would like the speaker to identify himself for the record.
This is Donald Ferguson, Putnam County Animal Control Lead Officer.
All right. Now, the respondent has requested the hearing. I want to make sure everybody's on the same page as the protocol. Respondent having requested their hearing, respondent gets to go first. Is that an issue with anyone? Well, you asked for the hearing.
We already have enough sufficient evidence to verify, and it's been signed off by the
All right,
department.
guys, I'm
head,
having trouble
supervisor.
picking up what you're saying. So you're going to have to get closer and speak louder.
Let's try that.
And I know I
Is
got
that
hearing
better?
aids, but still. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
same way.
Mr. Perry, where are you on this?
We've already distinguished the dog through investigation that has been deemed dangerous. For the appeal has to find the standings of why this dog is not
The only thing the
dangerous.
statute says is that the dog owner is entitled to a hearing after the finding
Correct.
by the Animal Control Division. Doesn't say anything else about how that hearing is conducted.
Well, they have the
Doesn't
right
say it's
to,
an appeal, it just says she's entitled to a hearing.
they are entitled to an appeal after the findings, correct.
Well, she doesn't have anything to go on until she hears from the county.
We can do
My
it.
suggestion is going to be that, and let me specify, there's no designated order to these things. You know, the rules of evidence, the strict rules of evidence that you find in a court of law, in a court enforcement proceeding as a whole generally don't apply. We try to be fair, make sure everybody has an opportunity to be heard, and make sure we have something that's reasonably admissible and has some weight and substantial and competent, usually the term courts like to use when evaluating this type of evidence. So what we're going to do, let's hear what the county's position is as to why this is a dangerous dog. All right? Let me ask now, who will be testifying today?
We have
21st. Who will be testifying for the county?
We have Julie Vance, which is the first bite victim.
What is that again, please?
Julie Vance is the first bite victim.
I'm sorry, that's not working for me. I cannot understand this.
We have Julie Vance.
Julie Vance? Okay, that's
She is
better.
the first bite victim. We have Officer Foreman, Interlochen PD.
Who is?
Officer Foreman
Foreman?
of Interlochen Police Department. We also have Officer Mendez from
Mendez?
Interlochen
Is that
Police
Mendez
Department.
or Mendez? Mendez?
Mendez.
M-E-N-D-E-Z?
Yes.
Who else?
And that's it for today. That is it for today.
That's it? Who will Ms. Kilburn be presenting today's witnesses? That's fine. And I understand there may be something to adjust later. That's your decision later. What? Mr. Ferguson, very well. All right, Ms. Vance, Officer Freeman, Officer Mendez, Mr. Ferguson, Ms. Kilburn present. If you are, please stand. I'm going to swear you in. We have Ferguson, Mendez, Kilburn, Vance. We're missing someone. Foreman. Oh, you're here. Okay, very well. If you raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give today should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I
Let the record show all of the witnesses have taken the oath and sworn in the affirmative. All right, let's begin, County.
Mr. Brown, before we begin, you asked me a moment ago why I stood on the issue of the appeal. I'd like to point out and just put on the record that the county is here in response to Ms. Kilburn's request for a hearing, and I believe that Ms. Kilburn is obligated to explain the basis of her appeal, if for no other reason that maybe we could sharpen the issues and come right to the whatever it is that the petitioner thinks that the county may have done wrong in their assessment.
And I appreciate your argument. This statute and the code provide no guidance other than this hearing can occur if noticed within the appropriate timeline after notice to the owner of the dog. We're here. It just says there's going to be a hearing. Now, there is a dangerous dog designation, and the county was the one who provided the dangerous dog designation. It seems like a fairly straightforward situation to demonstrate what the statute requires for a dangerous dog designation. I appreciate your concern about the use of the term appeal, and I got the argument, but it doesn't say anything about that in the statute or the ordinance that it's an appeal. And I'm sorry, I wish I gave you a better answer, but from the end of the day, I'm not sure it's necessarily going to make any difference as to how this turns out. You know, but the facts about this are going to be whether the facts satisfy the elements of the dangerous dog ordinance and statute. That's all this is going to come down to. And so let's start with where the county is on why they designated this dog, which I believe his name is Khaleesi. Her name is Khaleesi.
Well, we have two separate ordinances, Section 629A, Animal at Large, Owner's Responsibilities, and 631, Procedures for Dealing with Dangerous Dogs. The conditions that were found, number one, the dog has aggressively bitten, attacked, or endangered, or has inflicted severe injury on a human being on public or private property. Section 2 doesn't really apply to Khaleesi, but Section 3 also does. Has, when unprovoked, chased or approached a person upon the streets, sidewalks, or any public grounds in a menacing fashion or apparent attitude of attack, provided that such actions are attested in a sworn witness statement, which we have in the file, by one or more persons duly investigated by an animal control officer.
Does the county take the position that both of these sections of the ordinance are applicable to this
Yes,
case?
sir.
Okay, please proceed.
The first case we have with Miss Jessica Wilburn, Khaleesi's owner, from 421 Atlantic Avenue in Interlochen, was an animal control received a call, this is before my time, from a Joni in Interlochen Public Works that a large black dog with cropped ears was snapping at people. The second case
What was the date of,
occurred-
this first incident?
we can go through that. first incident was addressed to Kim Tillis, which was a former animal control officer for Putnam County Animal Control, back in February 21 of 2020. She left a notice on the mailbox. I don't have a follow-up on that because there was no follow-up in the computer for that particular case.
So what are you reading from?
This is the printout of case number 2020-0114.
All right, and what's its
approximately
relevant,
10
what's its
pages in.
relevance?
I'm sorry?
What is its relevance to this case?
It shows repetition of the dog being out in an aggressive manner off property.
So is this an official record of the county? How is this?
Nothing on this case.
I'm sorry?
Nothing on this particular case.
Okay, the record you're showing me, where did it come from? The piece of paper you're reading from, that's on my screen now.
The piece of paper I'm reading from shows the address of where the dog is and the description of the dog
Okay.
being aggressive off property.
Do we know any other description of this dog?
I can actually submit, with your permission, actual pictures of the dog that were taken out of the shelter after the fact that the dog was brought in for quarantine.
So this was on February 21st of 21.
Correct. And I have the pictures of the dog from the shelter from a couple weeks ago that I can submit to you.
Okay. What was the outcome of this notice left on the mailbox?
No further information on that.
Next.
The second case occurred on February 8th of 2021. Putnam County received a call regarding dogs roaming at large, one black and the other two were black and brown.
Where were these dogs roaming?
I'm sorry?
Where were they roaming?
Out on the public roadway.
Which public roadway?
That's where I'm getting to on this.
Okay.
This case is also with another animal control officer, Miss Bonnie Brock, who patrolled the area but did not see the dogs out on the property, out off of the property. And this was Atlantic Avenue and Prospect Avenue. The third case occurred on July 7th, 2021, when a large black King Corso charged an officer while he was trying to keep the dog contained. Officer Mendez stated that the dog was chasing people, charging people, and growling at them while on public property. And that was a case that I actually worked.
Does she have a screen that she can see this? Okay. She needs to be able to see this. Well, and now you're going to have to coordinate what you're showing there and what's on the screen, because they're not numbered. Okay, very good, very good. I'll make sure you have it with that. Okay, we're now at,
The third case, I went out there, I tried to make contact with the dog owner, was unsuccessful, left her a notice to keep the dogs contained and proof of rabies by 8/15/2021, which to no avail. I have no other proof of rabies from that dog for this particular case. Do you have anything you'd like to say according to that particular day? Because I was recalling.
Okay, guys, that's not the way this works. You're testifying now, okay?
Okay, yes, sir.
You can testify later. You got something you want to ask him, then you can ask him when he testifies. And everybody who testifies is going to get to take a microphone and make sure they're on the record.
Okay. The next is showing the picture of that case where I left a notice on that property.
Okay, back up if you
Notify
would.
her.
This is an incident on 7/7/8/21.
This was 7/20. The incident happened on 7/8, went out there on 7/20/2021.
Okay. And go back to the document you were showing,
Which document?
the one you were showing on this report. That one, all right. And this is an official document of the county, is that correct?
Correct.
This one says voicemail Officer Mendez, large cane Corso, is that correct?
Yes.
421 Atlantic Avenue, growling at him when he was trying to keep the dog contained. Return 7A, contacted Putnam County Sheriff's Office, who patched me through to Interlochen PD Officer Mendez, stated dog was chasing people, charging people, growling at him. So that's Officer Mendez's testimony, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
The fourth incident The fourth incident is where Khaleesi, in an aggressive manner, charged and bit Julie Vance while she was trying to protect her 3 little dogs that she was walking. And on this document, it shows the police report. Would you like me to read the police report out?
Well, the county needs to show that you've cited 2 aspects of the ordinance. Okay.
Correct.
County then needs to show me the elements of that ordinance and the facts that back up the dangerous dog finding. So are we now coming to the part where the county made a dangerous dog determination?
Okay. So after doing the investigation with this bite report, plus this one witness statement from Ms. Vance and her brother stating that a black dog, Khaleesi, came out walking. They were walking in the middle of Atlantic Avenue about 9:30 in the morning when a dog came up and attacked Ms. Vance, bit her through her pants, causing enough damage to have a severe bruise, laceration on her left buttock area. This is after several days. I did not take these photos. They were submitted to me from Ms. Vance as is evident for what happened at that incident.
Do we know who took these photographs? Oh, I'm asking him. Do we know who took the photographs?
I do not. As you can see on the picture, the pinky was also lacerated due to Khaleesi biting. And the last picture shows the severe bruising from that laceration of Khaleesi being off property and attacking Ms. Vance.
Does the county take a position that this was a severe injury to Ms. Vance?
That is not a severe debilitating injury, but it is an injury nonetheless. It broke the skin, which constitutes as a dog bite in the state of Florida. In the multiple lacerations, I'm going to go back up to the picture of the, you can actually see where Khaleesi stopped, released, and bit again because there's 2 sets of incisor teeth.
Right, so there was no laceration required sutures, is that correct?
Correct.
So this is aggressively bitten, attacked, or endangered?
I'm sorry?
This is about a dog which aggressively bitten, attacked, or
property.
endangered Ms. Vance. is the county.
Yes, correct. In the 5th incident where Khaleesi charged and bit Heather Savage, which was inspected by Mr. Foreman, he did the initial investigation out there. The pictures that were submitted to me,
Back up, what is the date of this one now?
this one was on 9/4/22. It's the date of incident. Date of report is 9/6/22.
Okay.
I have a sworn witness statement from Ms. Savage that she was sitting on the side of the road when Khaleesi came off of property, charged her.
And I appreciate that, but again, this isn't a formal court of law, and we're going to hear it, and then we'll make an evaluation as to its weight and credibility at that point. I understand your objection, and Ms. Savage is not here, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. She has a point. Ms. Savage isn't here to corroborate.
Okay.
Please continue.
But I did do a sworn witness statement for Ms. Savage. And I also have pictures of Ms. Savage's injuries, which is all part of the investigation. We also have Interlochen PD, Mr. Foreman's pictures. I can submit them to you, that he took personally of Ms. Savage's injuries.
Well, let me ask you this. Are those the incident reports the county's using to base their decision?
Correct.
All right. So which of these incidents reports did the county use to come to the conclusion that there was a dangerous dog in violation of 2018-09-631?
We did both investigations on both bites,
Both investigations of,
both victims being bit off the
Right.
property.
so what
The
is
first-
what is the basis for the county's conclusion that this dog was a dangerous dog?
Because when the dog is in an aggressive manner off the property and it attacks an individual, then it is deemed dangerous.
Right. What you need to do, what I need for the record, is line up your facts with this element. Okay? Has to be aggressively bitten, attacked, endangered a person while off the owner's property.
Correct.
It could be on public or private property, it's on public property. So that's your proof.
Both of them have been off of property.
Okay, go one at a time. Start with Ms. Vance, if you would. Go one at a time. Tell me about Ms. Vance, and tell me how that violated the county ordinance.
I'll go back up there. Mrs. Vance sworn witness statement to Interlochen PD from their police report. Her brother and her were walking 3 small dogs down the trail by Atlantic Avenue. A large pit bull, which can be construed as a cane corso, came past the house, near to the park, and charged in an aggressive manner, or aggressively behind us. She picked up her little dog, brother picked up the other 2 while they were on leashes, and walked towards the charging pit bull, pointing at him in a loud voice to go back home. So that proves that the dog was charging in an aggressive manner off of property before Ms. Vance was attacked.
County mentioned that they're looking at the third criteria in the ordinance reporting an unprovoked, chased, or approached a person on the streets, sidewalks, or public grounds in a menacing fashion or apparent attitude of attack. Does that apply to
Mrs. Vance's act?
Vance's case?
Yes,
Show me how.
because they were on a public roadway.
And
The dog charged her and then turned around and attacked. As she walked back towards their yard while yelling at the dog to go back home, we got close to the yard. I yelled, "Come get your dog." A girl came out of the yard and apologized, and I asked again to come get the dog. She came out of the yard, and some other people came out. The mother, the girl, one or two other people. The dog did bite my finger and the back upper thigh. The girl secured the dog with much effort and went back home during the incident. The brother called 911, went back home. I also called the police and animal control, provided photos to the responding officer.
And who is the person who identified the dog as being the dog belonging to Ms. Kilburn?
I'm sorry?
Who identified the dog as being the dog belonging to Ms. Kilburn?
The officer.
The officer? Which officer?
I'm going back to the police report, and that would be David Harrison. He has a whole police report. On 9/26 at 2021 at approximately 09:30 hours, I was advised by PCSO dispatch of a dog bite attack that occurred on Atlantic Avenue and to meet it with the complainant, the slash victim, located at 601 East Boylston Street in Interlachen, Florida. Upon arrival, I met with victim one, Miss Vance, who stated that she and her brother, witness one, Mr. Painter, were walking their three dogs on a leash westbound on Atlantic Avenue. As they approached the front of the residence of 421 Atlantic Avenue, they observed a black dog, or black and color pit bull barking seamlessly and approaching Tropic Avenue and prior to Douda Park. Ms. Vance heard a rustle of noise behind them, and as she turned, she saw this pit bull had escaped the fence area of the yard and it's aggressively charged towards them. She and her brother immediately picked up the three small dogs, so not to be attacked by the pit bull. She turned to fend off the attacking pit bull and was bitten on the small finger, left hand, leaving approximately a 1-inch laceration. That's bite number one. She was also bitten on her left upper thigh area. I observed what appeared to be a large bite from a canine mouth. The area showed extreme purple bruising and obvious canine teeth marks. The top layer of skin showed some breakage, however, no blood was detected. Ms. Vance said that she didn't have severe pain from the bite, however, she did not need emergency medical services. On the same date, approximately 2:15 p.m., I was able to speak with Ms. Kilburn at her residence. Ms. Kilburn seemed surprised that her 3-year-old canine had bit a victim. Ms. Kilburn, regarding dogs she has owned in the past, removed by animal control. I told Ms. Kilburn that I was called out on this date during this interview. Ms. Kilburn assured me that her canine did not have its rabies shots. Did have his rabies shots, and that it was up to date. I did inform Ms. Kilburn that animal control will be speaking to her soon about this matter. I then advised Ms. Kilburn that the case would be TOT turned over to animal control for further disposition.
Okay. That concludes the county's position?
That concludes for the deeming of the dangerous dog, yes.
Anything else?
I'm sorry?
Anything else the county wants to present at this time?
Other than the last bite that she objected to,
Well, you can present it.
thank you.
Again, keep in mind, we're going to let it be heard, but I'm going to weigh it as to credibility.
This incident with Heather Dawn Savage was also investigated by Interlochen PD, which later called us to do a follow-up. In this incident on September 6, 2022, at approximately 13:19 hours, Officer Foreman responded to 110 Plum Avenue concerning a dog bite which occurred 2 days earlier, September 4th, 2022. I spoke with the complainant, Nancy Thran, by telephone and advised her daughter Heather Savage and live-in boyfriend Samuel Rodriguez were attacked by a neighbor's dog. Upon arrival, I met with Heather and Samuel. Samuel said he was not bit and he did eventually chase the dog away by throwing rocks at him. Heather said she was outside her fence of her residence on 110 Plum Avenue. The dogs, which in darkened color, light colored stripes, clipped ears, came through the fence, started attacking her. Heather received what appeared to be a bite mark on her left rear cheek and a bite behind her left leg. Officer Foreman took photographs of the injuries that Heather sustained. Heather said the dogs belonged to the female who resided in the pinkish-colored residence across the street from her. According to Heather and Samuel, the incident occurred on September 4th, sometime between 1200 and 1700 hours. Samuel said the dog owner was in her vehicle during the time of the incident and did not do anything. When he chased the dog away, I relocated to 421 Atlantic Avenue in an attempt to make contact with the dog owner, which was met with negative results. I checked the call screen, was able to locate a couple reports of where there was other dog bite and / attack. Case number 21-162 and 2217, complaints with the same dog. The dog owner for other reports was listed as Jessica Kilburn. I made contact with Brittany with the Putnam County Animal Control concerning this investigation, provided her with the address and where the dog resides. Brittany advised that there are reports possibly with the same dog matching the description at the aforementioned residence. Brittany said she will start the investigation concerning the animal bite, and attempts will be made to contact the dog owner and advise them the dog needs to be quarantined.
And what is the county's, does this testimony, incident satisfy one or both of the elements of the dangerous dog classification in 631?
This is one.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add?
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Right.
Mr. Brown, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Ferguson. First, Mr. Ferguson, you took a sworn witness statement from Ms. Savage,
Correct.
and was that in close proximity to the time of the incident?
That was approximately 1 week or 2 weeks later.
Right. But you made contact with her, and she voluntarily gave you this sworn statement,
Correct.
and that sworn statement is contained within the investigative report.
Correct.
And you told us that Officer Foreman, who's with us today, also took pictures of Ms. Savage's injuries.
Correct.
And are those photographs attached to your investigative report?
Not on the preliminary report, but I do have them that Officer Foreman brought them in. I could submit them to the court.
We'll let Officer Foreman come in and identify them and present them as the evidence at that time. But you do have the sworn witness statement?
I do.
Can you
And
take it out, please? You don't have a paper copy in front of you?
I do have a paper copy.
Just hold it up.
Ms. Lahart? Ms. Lahart, you have anything?
I do have some questions. Mr. Perry,
For the time being.
how do you know that the large black dog with crop ears is referenced in whatever this is, as policing?
Because the only dog in that area that is large and black with cropped ears that matches that particular description is Khaleesi. What do you mean, was I there on February 21st?
This dog that is referenced.
I have the dog in custody at Animal Control, so yes, I've seen the dog.
Were you there on the 21st of February
In 2020?
in 2020?
No.
How do you know that the dog that you have in custody is the same dog that is referenced?
That we're going off other ACO reports. We're just doing correspondence with the address to a particular description of that dog.
Did you work for Animal Control after February 21st of 2020?
No, ma'am.
How do you know that there were no other black dogs?
I'm just going off the report for the particular address matching the description.
Show me anything that says that there are no other black dogs?
That I was doing my investigation. I've been there for a year and a half, and upon being in that area quite often for other cases, I have yet to see another black dog that matches that description with cropped ears, docktail in that area.
Thank you for that testimony. Would you please bring to my attention? Point to any piece of evidence in this record that shows that there were no other black dogs in the neighborhood as of February 21st.
I cannot.
Move on to the second instance, February 8th, 2021. Caller describes 3 dogs, 1 black, 2 others are black and brown and white. How do you know that policing would want these dogs?
That we do not know. Like I said before, I'm just going off the description of another ACO for that area at that particular time. And it goes back to Atlantic Avenue, which is highly coincidental. That is the black dog in that area. Those are just showing that the dogs are roaming at large. Those are not showing being aggressive or dangerous off of property. That we don't know.
Reference to the third incident, July 20th, 2021, there's a dog charging the dog.
Because that dog, I actually did the investigation for. And it was off the report of Officer Mendez of Interlochen PD. and I tried to make contact with that particular address, that Officer Mendez said where the dog belonged to.
What follow-up did you do after the July 20th?
I patrolled that area several times trying to make contact with Ms. Kilburn. All were unsuccessful.
You were in the incident involving Ms. Vance, which one did you know?
Correct.
How do you know that the fight should settle out of the
That I do not know. It doesn't state it in the report. It doesn't state it on the sworn witness statement. But I have to go off the documentation of a sworn witness statement. That is truth and correct.
Did you make contact with Ms. Gilbert after that?
I'm sorry.
After the incident with Ms. Vance, did you make contact with Ms. Gilbert?
After the incident with Ms. Vance, I was able to speak with her via telephone. I hung up a quarantine documentation on her mailbox, and she signed it and returned it via text.
I'd like to ask you some questions about the notice of hearing.
I do.
States here that my client's property violation of section 6-3 of the you agree with me that my client is not in violation of that?
Of animals at large, she is in violation of that. Was at the time of the incident, yes. Correct, it's not. I'm sorry.
Are you listed 3 separate
Correct.
violations?
Correct.
I'm asking you for the basis of the second violation.
The second violation, proof of rabies?
The second violation says that she is in, her property is in violation of section 6-31, procedures for dealing with dangerous dogs.
I'm going to pull that over. So the procedures for dealing with the dangerous dog allegations is what I submitted to her when she signed off for what we were doing for the investigation of the dangerous dog. That is to notify her that this proceeding was going to be dealing with Khaleesi as a dangerous dog that she was appealing, or you guys were appealing. So that's why that is on that statement.
So she's not actually in violation of section 6-31.
Correct.
What about section 6-32H? How is she violating that?
That is not a violation. That is to notify the courts that we're going to be discussing that also.
So the only violation that is actually a violation is that the dog wasn't violent and the dog is no longer.
Correct. Because this isn't a violation hearing, this is you guys appealing our findings of a dangerous dog.
Well, I'm just
That is not true. That's correct. That's, the only violation she has is number one. Number two and number three is for the courts.
Excuse me, Mr. Brown, and I'm sorry to cut off my learned counsel, but I think what we're involved in here is a exercise in semantics. This is, the property is in violation of. It's not so much that we know the dog is not in violation of any of these things today as we sit here, because the animal is secured in the Putnam County Animal Control Facility. This is more a question of not is it, but was it? And to sit here and try and say that it's not in violation today, why, of course it's not in violation today. It was in violation. And if this is just a question of is versus was, I think that everybody in the room understands that this 1 through 3 is what did happen in the past.
Okay, as I understand, I asked this at the beginning of the procedure.
Yes.
We are here today based on the dog's owner, Ms. Kilburn, and her counsel, invoking that part of both state statutes and county ordinance, which allows for a hearing on the designation by the county animal control officer that this dog is a dangerous dog, as defined by statute. That's what we're here for today.
Correct.
Has anybody got an issue with that?
My issue is with the fact that the notice of hearing doesn't make any reference to this being a dangerous dog. There it says that my client is in violation of these 3 ordinances, which is, in arguably, not a violation.
But your client responded to the notice of hearing by asking for, the dangerous dog designation by asking for a hearing to challenge the dangerous dog designation, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
And the county is required to provide for a notice of hearing.
All right, no, and I'm not arguing that. We're here to determine, and it's basically de novo, guys. We're going to hear what today, somebody's got to convince me or not that this is a dangerous dog under the code. That's what we're here to do today.
Correct.
And it's going to take facts that are credible and acceptable. That's what we're here to do today. Let's proceed.
Officer, so would you agree with me that you have the discretion to allow Lucy to be home right now?
I do, but it also has to come from my superiors. And due to the quality of the fencing and the history of this dog coming out on his property on his own accord, shows that they cannot keep the dog contained properly. Dangerous dog finding, the dog has to be in a proper enclosure.
Which could be a house, correct?
It could be a house, but it also has to be away from children. If it's outside,
Children that are not members of the family, is that correct?
correct. It has to be notified by signage for anybody entering the premises. It also has to be muzzled if off property while on a tether. It also has to be within eyesight of the owner of the dog or anybody 18 years of age or older while the dog is outside on exercise. Any other time, it has to be confined into a kennel that the dog cannot escape from.
A house is considered a secure enclosure.
Correct.
The dog can be in the house.
With the family, immediate family, but it has to be notified that you have a dangerous dog at all entrances of the property.
My client has stipulated that she's willing to comply with all of those requirements in the dog, correct?
Correct.
You're aware of that?
Correct.
And if your order, if the preliminary determination that Lucy is a dangerous dog is upheld, my client. The preliminary determination that my client's dog is dangerous is upheld, then the dog is allowed to go home, subject to those manner of keeping restrictions. correct?
But she has to meet all the stipulations. The dog has to be altered. The dog has to have a microchip.
Are you familiar with the State Dangerous Dog Law, Chapter 767?
You went from really loud too, I'm sorry.
Are you familiar with the State Dangerous Dog Law,
Correct.
Section 767 point?
1, 2.
Do you have a copy of that in front of you?
Mr. Brown, I have a copy for you if you would like one.
I think he has one.
Mr. Brown, I have a copy of the state statute if you
I
would
do.
like one.
He has.
Could you look at Section 767.12, Paragraph 1, Paragraph B?
Yes.
And that provides that a dog that is a subject of a dangerous dog investigation can be at home with their owner if the animal is humanely and safely contained, correct?
In a securely fenced or enclosed area.
And a house is an enclosed area, is it not?
But obviously in the previous cases, that she cannot keep the dog confined in the property.
So it's your testimony that because the dog had gotten out previously, that you're not going to allow it to go home until,
The appeal is done, correct. I was advised by my superiors that the dog will not go home until the appeals are completed.
and that's even if she is in complete compliance with all of the dangerous dog requirements?
Which she is not in complete compliance.
No, that wasn't my question. Answer my question.
Go
My
ahead.
question is, it is your position that the dog cannot be released into her custody even if she is in compliance with all of the dangerous dog criteria. Is that your
If she was in
testimony?
complete compliance, I would have addressed that with my superiors, and the dog would have been released. But she is not in compliance, so the dog will not be released until the appeals are done and everything is in compliance. We have to investigate to make sure that she is in compliance before the dog can be released.
Was she ever told that if she came into compliance that she could bring her dog home?
No.
And in fact, her counsel asked repeatedly if she would be able to bring the dog home if it was in compliance. Is that correct?
That I do not know.
Mr. Brown, I must object. This has nothing to do with the determination as whether this is a dangerous dog or not.
Counsel?
This is the only opportunity that I have to make a record, so I ask for a little leeway, please.
What does it have to do with the declassification?
I don't have any more questions on this line. I'm moving on. Officer Ferguson, can you tell me where the procedures are that govern dangerous dog proceedings?
It's on the county ordinance, 2018-09.
2018-09? Is that codified anywhere?
I'm sorry?
Is that in your code of ordinances?
That's a code of ordinance. You also have a copy of that in the hard copy. Section 631 and 632.
Other than 631 and 632, there are no procedural rules that apply to this proceeding? Is that your testimony?
They all mimic the state law.
Could you please just answer my question?
I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to ask.
The question was, other than Section 6-31 and 6-32, are there any other procedures that apply to this proceeding?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Perry, anything else? And I don't want to keep going back and forth. We've got to
I know
make
you don't.
progress.
I know you don't, and I don't either. Mr. Ferguson, Section 6-9 of the Florida, of Putnam County Codes is definitions. Does definitions have anything to do, or this particular ordinance have anything to do with how you conduct your investigations? let me ask you another way.
Go ahead.
Ms. Ferguson, doesn't 619, the definition of dangerous dog, isn't the definition of dangerous dog contained in Section 619 definitions?
Correct.
The other thing I'd like to do is go back to the sworn witness statement from Heather Savage. Do you have that in front of you still?
Okay.
In that sworn statement, isn't it true that Ms. Savage actually identifies the dog that bit her as Khaleesi?
That is correct.
I think that's all I have.
All right,
I have one follow-up question, if I may.
this will be the last one, guys. We've been at this an hour for one witness. Let's go.
Mr. Ferguson, after the incident with Ms. Vance, Khaleesi was not declared a dangerous dog, correct?
Correct.
And you stated that if Khaleesi had really wanted to hurt Ms. Vance, that the injuries would have been much more severe.
Most definitely.
Thank you.
I do have one inquiry, and we're going to let it go. Is there a reason why Ms. Savage was unavailable to appear today?
That, I do not know her reasoning. She told me on Monday afternoon via telephone that she would be here pending if she could get a ride. I spoke with her mother. Her mother said she would be bringing her.
Thank you. All right, next witness.
Mr. Brown, I think just because we have a on-duty interlocking police officer, Officer Mendez, I think I'd like to bring him up now. Come forward,
Come on
Mr. Officer Mendez. And you've been sworn, right, Mr. Officer? You've been sworn.
Do I need to say my name? Ricardo Mendez, Interlocking Police Department.
Mr. Perry?
Yes, Officer Mendez, can you explain to the special magistrate your involvement in this case?
Yes. I've actually had several encounters with this dog being outside of the premises. Can you hear me? Okay. I had several cases where I've seen the dog outside the premises. One was a little bit more severe and more intense than the others, and that's when I contained the dog with my vehicle because it charged at me, then I closed the door and it jumped on the window. And then because where they were living at the time, there was a playground, and I didn't feel comfortable just staying where I was. So I pinned my car, positioned my car in a way to keep the dog away from the playground in case any some unwary children just show up and attack. Now, at this point in time, I wasn't aware of any previous attacks. I just knew that my current account is like I wouldn't want my kids to be around it. After several hours, I was trying to contact animal control. I couldn't get a hold of animal control. I couldn't get a hold of no one. I can't remember if we had a contact number for Jessica for this particular situation at this point in time. But the dog was able to go in through a fence, a hole in a fence, and then later on, when I was able to contact Jessica, Jessica was saying that there was a way that the dog was able to get out, and they were on the verge of repairing it. Then another incident was at the pest control office, and at the pest control office, the dog was there preventing customers from coming in. It was just growling at people coming in there. At that point in time, I was able to contact Jessica through her job, and then she gave me her number at that point in time. Any other incidences that I've dealt with the dog, I was able to kind of like just shoo it into it would run into the woods when it would we would have bikers who were riding their bikes or other people walking their dogs the same. hey, the dog is loose, and I get there. But there was times before when I saw the dog, I just didn't know who the owner was. And that was not until the time where I pinned the dog. Well, I'll take that back. It was the Century when the pest control was the first time I dealt with the owner and knew where the dog belonged to. And then the second time was with the children, and when I pinned the dog, and I was able to shoot it back into the fence. And then I stood there until I was able. I think no, the pest control is when I think her sister or one of her friends came and grabbed the dog because she was stuck at work with that animal. So I moved into the area recently as well. Well, soon after that incident, I moved to the area and I was able to see the dog several times. Just for the record as well, when it comes to our records to this animal, it's also very hard to determine to pull these kinds of records, and I'm going to explain to you why. When we get called to an animal complaint, it's called to the situation. So for instance, if it occurred at Hastings Park, the call will be Hastings Park. It wouldn't be attached to Ms. Kilborn's address. So when you go to look up the records for Ms. Kilburn's address and you're like, well, we don't have much, it's because we get it basically where it's at. We don't have, since we deal with people and not animals, we don't have a search that says big black dog, and I could pull up all the calls for big black dog. I could pull up people's names by the descriptions on humans, but not on animals. So just want to let you know that as well.
Officer Mendez, let me take you back just a minute. How many encounters have you had with this dog?
Where I physically seen the dog?
Where you've had some sort of, you were called or on an official business?
So I've got called to it quite often. I've been here for 15 years, so I'm pretty sure I've been there since the day they moved in. But I got called quite often. Now, as to how many times I've physically seen it, I would say at least 5 or more times.
Have you ever seen this dog acting in an aggressive manner?
Twice.
And what time frame was that?
I think it was within the same year. It was within the same year. It was the incident with the pest control, and then there was an incident with the children where it was I had to pin it in. There was 2 separate incidents. I'm having a hard time remembering because there's one instance I didn't have Miss Kilburn's number, and then there was another instance, but I can't remember which one. I had her number, the contact information.
But
It was a long time ago. It was like, I don't know, maybe. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Well, do you recall talking to Ms. Kilburn about the dog?
Yes, I spoke to her a couple of times. She ended up giving me a number, and then anytime the dog was out or was heard to be, I take that back. When I got called to that animal, because I've been familiar with it, it's a very unique animal. I lived in the neighborhood. I also own a large animal as well, and I walk it. So it's the only one with that description, and anytime I had that description, I would message or call her. And she usually picked up until one time, I think her phone disconnected, and she may have got a different number. I don't know what happened or why the phone number no longer works.
Did you recognize this animal if you saw it?
Yes, sir. It's a beautiful animal.
Here's counsel. Just for the record, who took the photos? When were they taken? Were they taken while the dog is under the control of animal control?
I hope so.
some up here anyway. I could look at these 4 pictures and tell me if you recognize this dog.
Yes, sir, I do.
Look through them all.
Okay. Let me just mute my phone, I apologize. Oh my gosh. Oh my. I apologize, guys, I can't. Let me turn this off. Yes, sir. Miss Kilburn's dog. 9 till today. Like she told me back a while ago, but I didn't recall the name until today.
This is the dog that you have
Yes.
contact with over there.
Yes.
I'm going to leave these up here because I'm going to need them for another witness.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything else, Mr. Brown.
How do you know the dog you identified in the photos and the dog that you saw on the street belonged to Ms. Kilburn?
When Miss Kilburn had her, I can't remember if it was her sister. I think the last name was Odom. Anyway, when she had her come down, she grabbed the dog and took it to Miss Kilburn's house.
Right. So at least you know the dog you saw this dog on the street?
Yes, several times.
And which streets did you see the dog on, do you recall?
Oh, and everywhere in that area. Anybody that the dog has been seen at the parks, the dog has been seen at Town Hall, pest control, the Lake Laganda. It's been everywhere. And where I physically seen it was at the pest control, Lake Laganda. I seen it at the time when it was near the Dowda, I believe it's Dowda Park, whichever park was closer to Miss Kilburn, and where I pinned it. And then I seen it on Boylston Street. I think it was Boylston and Plum, Boylston and Plum. I seen it there, which is actually just down the road from Miss Kilburn as well.
Well, have you ever seen this dog chase or approach someone on the street in a threatening manner, aggressive manner?
Just me. And both times. But the first time was a lot more friendlier. The second time it caught me off guard when it actually jumped jumped at my window. But then when I yelled at it, and then I opened up the door just a little bit, gave it a little bump, and then it backed off and it cowered. And then I locked it in her neighbor's fence, which was an abandoned house, like there was nobody living there or was being for sold. And then, because their gate was open, but they had no gate, like front gate. So I positioned my car to prevent the dog from coming out. And then it found its way back into Ms. Kilburn's house from that property. I don't know how, but it did.
So it basically jumped on your car?
Yeah, it jumped on my patrol car. It didn't leave no scratch or nothing, though.
All right, any other incidents where the dog approached you or anyone you've seen?
No, every time I've dealt with it, it's usually just an angry citizen. She's like, that dog is going to kill somebody. Like, does it chase me on my bike? Kind of thing. So,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Good afternoon, Officer Mendez. How are you?
I'm doing good.
When the dog, you said, was aggressive to you, did you make a report of that to animal control?
Yes, I called them that day. The first time wasn't so bad. Like I said, it was just growling. It was there at pest control. And it's just, there was just a call for service for it.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's when I was able to contact Miss Kilburn, and Miss Kilburn was able to have her, I don't know who that person is to her, but I thought it was his sister or maybe his friend. I don't know who she is, but she came and got it with her daughter, or there was a little girl with her too.
Okay. Looking through what's been marked as the animal control case, I found reports from Officer Wilburn and Officer Harrison, but I didn't find any from you.
Yeah, usually when when we contact animal control, is at that point in time, it's already attacked. Like the dog is attacked or has done something so vile or so dangerous that they send it over to animal control. I don't know why, but they contact us. They contact us first. Normally, when we get on scene, it's like, okay, here's the animal. We verify the animal, and then we would say, all right, you need to contact animal control because the dog is not aggressive at that time. Now, the first time was a lot more pleasant. Like I said, it was just growls, and I was like, it wasn't so bad. Like it didn't lunge at nobody at that point in time. The time I did contact animal control was when she lunged at me at my car, and then now I'm scared for the kids, and that's the time when I contact animal control. But most of the time, we don't even contact. We tell the victim, it's like, hey, whoever's the victim of the crime, of the animal crime, because again, we deal with people. We don't deal with animals. You know what I mean? So like that's an animal control issue. It's a completely different department. We only come in there when the animal is really deemed like really aggressive. So I come in and I verify it was aggressive. Like I said, the first time it wasn't as aggressive growls. I can handle a growl like this. When it smashed my car, that's when I got nervous.
Understand. When that happened, did you fill out an affidavit?
No, we don't fill out. I just called in the animal control, and the animal control, they came and got it. I have no idea what happened after that, though, to be honest with you.
Thank you. No further questions.
Anything else, Mr. Terry?
No.
Oh, it is a call for service, though, for it, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, officer, thank you. And can you be excused?
Yes, he can. And we'll have Officer Foreman, who's also here from Interlochen PD. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming today.
Good day.
Can you just get your name for the record?
Officer Dwayne Foreman.
Thank you.
Officer Foreman, can you explain to the special magistrate your involvement in this case?
My involvement was I get a call from dispatch to go to a residence in reference to a person that has been bit 2 days earlier. I get there. I made contact with Miss Heather Savage and her boyfriend Samuel. And he advised he didn't get bit, but she did. And she showed me a bite mark on her hip and her cheek and left leg. I took photographs of that, and she informed me the dog belonged to the residence, catty corner from her residence, in a pinkish colored house, which comes back to, I believe it's going to be Miss Kilburn's address. And I got a copy of the report right here. I can give you the exact address if I looked at it.
Did she describe the dog to you?
They described the dog as having clipped ears. They mentioned cane corso, but I'd never heard of a cane corso, and they said it was black and had almost like a striping marks on it or something, which I'm not used to seeing a dog like that as well.
Did you ever come in contact with this dog?
No, sir.
Did you ever see the dog?
No, sir.
But you did take a report on this incident?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what you were told?
I was informed that the dog came through the fence somewhere or another and attacked Miss Savage outside her fence while she was on the phone, bit her. Her boyfriend chased the dog away, was able to chase the dog away after a short time and throwing rocks and stuff at him.
Okay. And you said you took photographs of Miss Savage?
Yes.
Do you have those photographs with you?
Yes, sir.
Can you take them out, please?
Yes, sir.
Give me a picture, please.
Trying to think if that's going to be, no.
Okay, well, that's all right. These are the photographs you took?
These are the photographs I took.
Can you tell us what they depict, please?
Which photographs are we
Show
talking
them
about?
up. Show them.
I'm sorry.
For the record.
No, let me have these for just a minute.
Okay. The photographs is of,
Are these marked in any way? Keeping the record straight, guys. Let's go for County 1 and County 2 on these and show them. Actually. And there was a packet of photographs you had showed earlier. Mr. Fury? Yeah, I know that, but there's a group of photographs taken together. You showed me a pack of photographs earlier. I don't think we marked. I want the reference for those. And a previous witness. Yeah, the
of the
previous
dog.
photograph. Yeah. All right, well, let's make sure we didn't.
I'm just going to give these back to you.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. And you took these photographs?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us when you took them?
On the 6th of, I believe, the day I took the report, September 6th.
Can you tell us what they depict, please?
Okay, one of them is the hip, where it appeared to be a bite mark.
Hold it up, please.
Let me see here. Where it appeared to be a bite mark made by a dog. From my experience, I've seen a few bite marks in my past made by dogs, but I don't know which dog made this. Okay, then the second photo is behind the left leg, which also detailed appeared to be a bite mark made by a dog.
And those are the bite marks that Ms. Savage told you were a result of her encounter with this dog.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Did you contact animal control?
Yes, I contacted Animal Control. I made an attempt to make contact with the dog owner. The gate was locked and nobody appeared to be home. And I never did meet with her. I believe the chief, he met with her the next day and informed her that she needed to quarantine the dogs for 10 days.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, I think I will at this time submit those two photographs as evidence, counties exhibits 1 and 2.
Mr. Harding, objection?
No objection.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You took the photographs yourself,
Yes, sir.
and they accurately represent the condition of Mrs. Savage's injuries on the day in which you took them?
Yes, sir.
Did you see any broken bones?
No, sir, I didn't see no broken bones.
Were there any multiple bites?
I don't recall seeing any multiple bites. I just saw those two.
Were there any lacerations that might have required sutures or stitches?
No, I didn't observe anything like that, no, sir.
Are you aware of whether Miss Savage owns dogs herself?
I heard she does. I never seen them.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing further.
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. May he be excused?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. Next witness, please.
Julie Vance.
Ms. Vance,
Hello.
thank you for coming today.
You're welcome.
And you are Julie Vance,
Yes, I'm
correct?
Julie Vance.
And what's your address, ma'am?
I actually live in Bel Air Beach, Florida, but my mom lives in Interlochen at 601 East Boylston Street.
I see. Ms. Vance, would you please tell the special magistrate your involvement with this case?
Yes, on September 26, 2021, in the morning, my brother and I were walking in Interlochen, and we were coming from Highway 315 on the trail that used to be the railroad tracks, if you're familiar with Interlochen, that goes down the middle of the town. And we were walking there, and we passed the yard with the dog in it, and we noticed it was barking, and we said it's a pretty dog, it's a scary dog, but then we kept walking. And there's a road, by the way, the trail is in the middle of two roads. and then her house is on the other side, so we weren't close to
Who's her house?
the Kilburn, Mrs. Kilburn,
Right.
where the dog was.
And how did you know that was Miss Kilburn's house?
I didn't. I didn't have any idea. We just noticed the dog. So we continued in the walk, and we actually passed her house, the other side of the road. We passed another house, and we passed like half of the playground that's after that. And at that time, I was about 10 or 15 feet behind my brother. My brother was walking his dog and my mom's dog. They're both small dogs. And I was walking my little 12-pound Chihuahua mix. And we heard either the paws or the breathing, and turned around and saw the dog was running towards us. And I looked around and I didn't see anybody out, and was trying to figure out what to do. And it looked like it was going to get us. It looked pretty aggressive. So I picked up my little dog and tucked him on my right hip. And I looked at the dog in the eye, and I pointed at it, and I said, I just yelled like really loud and confidently and said, "No, go back home." The only thing I could think to do would be like to make it go home. So I kept eye contact, and my brother and the other dogs were behind me. Oh, sorry. My brother and the other dogs were still behind me. So I walked it. It was about 10 or 15 feet from me, and it was just sort of jockeying for position. And I just continued going, "No, no, go back home," really loud. And my brother, I think, called 911, and I walked all the way past the half of the playground, past the other house, and up into the street by her house, by Miss Kilburn's house, and was just yelling, "Come get your dog, come get your dog." And I saw her daughter was out there, and her daughter was very sweet and apologized, but I said, "Can you come get your dog?" And she came out, and but she wasn't getting the dog. I said, "Do you have a leash?" And she said, "No." And then I think Miss Kilburn came out. I don't know when she came out, but anyway, at some point, I turned away, I guess, too early, and the dog just grabbed me on the leg there, and then I guess I think she let go. I think actually what happened is I think I must have elbowed her in the head just reflexively, because a couple days later I saw a bruise on my elbow also, and then it nicked my finger. But anyway, I think she took her back, and we walked back home and met the policeman, and I called animal control, and that's all that I have. Oh, I have pictures, and those were the pictures that the officer showed were pictures that I think one of them my brother took of me, and then a couple I took of myself. And there's some here also, which I think might be duplicates. I'm not sure. These, I think, are also in the
Here, show me what you got. All right, and just for the record, I'm looking at 3 pictures. One of them labeled in the back, Miss Vance, left-hand dog bite, 21162. Who took this photo? Does it accurately represent your condition of your hand on the date of the incident? Does this require a stitch or suture? The next photo also shows left thigh, dog bite, Miss Vance. Did your brother take this photo? And does it accurately represent the condition of your body on that date? Okay. Did this bite break the skin?
Yes, it broke the skin, not a lot, but it broke it enough.
Did that require any sutures or lacerations or something to leave a scar?
No, but it would take 5 months for the bruise to go away, and 6 months for the bumps and
And their third photo, left thigh, is this the same as the second photo? All right, who took that photo? Okay, but does it accurately represent the condition of your body on the date of the incident? All right, I'm going to mark these. Hang on. C 3, 4, and 5.
The photos,
And
I'm sorry, go
please
ahead.
show these to Mr. Perry.
Sir.
Someone to show these, Mr. Moore, if you show these to Mr. Hall. I think that's it.
There's one more, but I think it's a duplicate also.
Is it, see your thigh bruise? Right, and
One of those, I don't know why
your brother
my,
took this photo,
yes,
and does it accurately represent the condition of your body on the date of the incident?
yes, sir.
These were taken on the date of the incident.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we'll mark this one C6.
Probably don't need that many pictures. In the slideshow, though, there was at least one picture that showed that the bruise deepened and got a lot worse than that.
So let me clarify. I'm always want to connect the dog to the owner. That's important. How do you know this was Miss Kilburn's dog?
Because when I walked it back to the property, her daughter, I don't know if it was her daughter actually, but she came out and got the dog.
And is Miss Kilburn the person you see here today, the one that came out and got the dog?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
You believe so?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And if you look in front of you, you'll see 4 photographs of a dog. Do you see it?
Yes.
I'd like you to look at all 4 of those photographs, if you don't mind.
Yes, that's her.
What day did this attack take place?
I think it was September 26th, I said.
Okay. And that is the dog that bit you?
Yes, sir.
All right. You mentioned a minute ago that you nicked your finger.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
My finger was bleeding. It still has like a little bump.
Well,
But
what caused the injury?
honestly, it happened really fast, and I don't know exactly how the injury, I don't know exactly. She just bit me, and then I don't know if she bit my finger or if in getting her off, I don't know really what happened, to be honest.
All right. Thank you.
Did you do anything to attract the dog's attention or provoke the dog in any way?
No, sir. We actually were way past the dog's house. We had passed her house, the next house, and halfway through the park. So even when we were walking on the trail, there's a whole road in between us. There's the trail, some grass, the road, more grass, and then her property. So we weren't close enough to be an aggravation.
All right, thank you. Ms. Lahart?
Did you require any medical care?
No.
No further questions, thank you.
Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, we got all the photographs under control. And Mr. Perry, you asked her to identify 4 photographs. Have those
Yes, I
already
did.
been marked?
And she has identified
Yes.
All right, let me put some numbers on these things just so we can reference what she was looking at. We're up to 6. I'm gonna call these C7, C8, C9, and C10.
Will this testimony be like on record so I don't have to come back again? Or
I'm sorry?
will this testimony be on record so that I'm done with this? Just, I won't have to testify again.
Well, in this particular case, I hope you
Okay.
won't have to testify again.
All right, I was going to
I
try.
hope there will not be another case, but I can't be predictive on that one.
Okay,
So hopefully it will conclude your need to testify.
okay.
All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
Would you like her to stay?
No, sir.
Okay, he'd like you to stay.
To stay?
You
No,
want to
I
stay?
would not.
You want to, she's excused?
Yes.
Okay, you're
Okay.
excused if you want to go. You can stay
Okay.
and watch the festivities, but you may, all right, thank you. Thank you for coming today. All right, who's next, Mr. Perry?
I believe that's all we have, sir.
All right. Ms. LaHart?
Could we have a 5-minute break?
Sure. And let me suggest when we're, just a matter of protocol, when we're done with the testimony, I would, if you would like, each take 5 minutes for closing statement if you like. Is that enough time? Need 10? Don't overdo it. But 10 should be fine at the most. And after conclusion of testimony, we'll do that, all right? All right, thank you. We'll take 10-minute break at 2:41. ready to proceed. Mr. Perry, you have something else you said?
Yes, sir. I would also like to submit into evidence the sworn statement of Ms. Savage. I'm trying to find the one that he referred to. Mr. Ferguson, can you find the sworn statement that we talked about from Ms. Savage?
Did you have the sworn statement of Ms. Vance? The sworn statement from Ms. Vance? And I understand opposing counsel's objection to the hearsay nature of the sworn statement. Well, we're on. Been on since 2:41. All right, I'm going to mark that. C11. All right, anything else, Mr. Perry?
No, sir.
Okay, Ms. LaHart?
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Jessica Kilburn, and I live at 421 Atlantic.
A little closer to Mike.
My name is Jessica Kilburn, and I live at 421 Atlantic Avenue in Interlaken.
Ms. Coburn, I'd like you to turn your attention to September 4th, which is the date that Ms. Savage claims to have been bitten by your dog. Was your dog at large that day?
No, ma'am.
How do you know that?
That was actually like our yard day. My dad came over. He mows our grass, so of course for him to come over, he has a truck with a trailer, and he parks on Atlantic Avenue, like actually parks in front of my yard. And so I have to open my gates up. So all three of my dogs were actually inside all day. And then after he finished mowing our yard, we went ahead and went to the park. We walked to the park. So we were, like I said, pretty much open, our gates open, and there all day.
Where was Khaleesi when you were at the park?
Inside.
Inside the house?
Yes, ma'am, inside the house,
With the door closed?
with all the doors and windows.
Okay. And because the gate was open, you didn't allow the dogs in the yard, correct?
Correct.
Are you certain that she was never out on September 4th?
I'm positive, yes, ma'am.
I'd like you to turn your attention to the incident with Ms. Vance that she testified to today.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a conversation with Officer Ferguson after that?
Yes.
And what did he say?
It was a long time after that.
Mhm.
It was actually a very, I guess, emotional one because he said he'd been trying to get a hold of me for a long time, and I said, I've been here all day, and I don't know how in detail do you want me to go, I'm sorry. Do you know what happened this afternoon? I said, yes, sir, I was here. Well, your dog bit an attorney, and he started going off, and I'm like, I didn't know she bit anybody. I was there, but nobody told me she bit somebody. And I said, is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, but she did have to run up to CVS or something like that. But he even stated that the wound weren't that aggressive. She didn't need to go anywhere other than CVS to get some ointment or something like that.
Did he say that if Khaleesi had intended to hurt her, that the injury would have been much worse?
honestly don't recall, because he just kept talking about how she had bitten an attorney. And of course, I got a little defensive, because I was like, well, if, that's the case, I'll do what I have to do. But like I said, he just mainly said, and then he actually told me that animal control was coming to pick her up right then and there. So, again, but they didn't come that day. But he never actually mentioned the bite, other than that she was bitten and that it was a attorney that she bit. And again, I don't know if it's relevant, but I even brought that up to Mr. Ferguson when I talked to him, I think 2 days later, because it was actually a Sunday or Saturday, so they weren't even on call, because I was actually very emotional, and I call it my attorney mode, because he mentioned that she was an attorney. So I even, when I first talked to Mr. Ferguson, I recorded the phone call, because I was like, oh, lawyer mode. But
What did Mr. Ferguson say to you regarding the seriousness of the injury?
He agreed that with Khaleesi being a big cane Corso Mastiff, that if she really wanted to hurt anybody, it would have been a lot worse.
Since that incident with Ms. Vance, have you taken efforts to repair the fence so that your dog doesn't get out anymore?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
Well, we've repaired it, and just recently we had to do it again because of Miss Savage's dogs, and that's another reason why I know the dogs weren't out, because they had messed up a part of my gate. Miss Savage's yard is right here on Plum Street, and my fence is right here across Plum Street, and her dogs get out all the time and come straight over to mine. And like I said, they had actually messed up the fence, so I had my dogs inside again because of that reason. So, and I didn't print them, but I do have pictures of where we actually had to fix it. So she was already inside for a good 3 days around that time that she was supposedly bitten.
The incident with Ms. Vance was over a year ago. Since then, to the best of your knowledge, has there ever been an occasion when Khaleesi was at large?
No, ma'am.
So the repairs to the fence that were made in September of last year have been effective to keep Khaleesi confined?
Yes, ma'am. We even, again, might be too much knowledge, but we even built I got 2 Cocker Spaniel puppies, and they were actually able to get out of my gate because it's a small entrance. We built a sub-pen inside to hold all 3 of them until they got big enough to where they couldn't even get out. So we have, again, went, in my opinion, above and beyond to try to make sure they have stayed in. You can even see it, because I think he mentioned that he saw it the other day. It's a little grown up now because we don't use it, but there is a pin inside my fence, like I said, that we used for a long time to keep all 3 dogs in until the other ones got big enough that they couldn't get through that little hole in the gate.
And it's your testimony that your fence has been subsequently damaged by Ms. Savage's dogs trying to dig into your yard?
Yes, ma'am.
You brought some pictures of Khaleesi today. Do you want to show a few of these to the magistrate? Tell him about Khaleesi?
Sure. I just brought, these were the ones I printed out now, but the most recent ones,
Speak in the mic for me, make sure.
I'm sorry. These are just some I printed out today, but I think this just shows her interacting with different people. There's even one where I had walked her down Atlantic Street during the Christmas parade, showing that, she's been around babies that I babysat. We've dog sat other dogs, and she's around those. I don't know which ones would be, if you don't even have to see any of them, but just I was trying to find pictures to show that, she's not an aggressive dog. She's around numerous people, little kids included, because I have 3, and then I have 9 cousins. My kids have like 9 cousins, something like that. And then my biggest thing with this whole incident, I turned her over to animal control because that's what I was advised to do around the 8th, I think. And she's been there ever since. I've only got to see her on that day and the following Monday. We haven't got to see her, visit her, which I've asked repetitively to visit her, at least so she knows she wasn't abandoned. I do have another stack over there where it's just my littlest son, my 6-year-old son, uses her as a pillow almost every night. And I've got numerous pictures from when she was a puppy to, now. And it's really hit them hard because this has been almost a month of, that's our dog, that's our baby, so.
Ms. Kilburn, when did Officer Ferguson tell you that he was going to declare Khaleesi dangerous?
The day I brought her, I dropped her off. I was supposed to meet there Thursday morning, but I wound up having to do a meeting with a parent. So I actually took my lunch break and went back home and got her and took her to animal control. I think it was the 8th, Thursday the 8th or something like that. And he told me right when I got there that just based off the police reports, he was going to label her a dangerous dog. And he, told me a few things about what this entails and what this means and, what I'll have to do. And of course, I just lost it. So, and then I went back Monday because I think I'd asked a few times over the weekend what I can do about visitations, because I think after I went home and read the ordinance and the statute, it said nothing about visitation. So I kept asking about visitation, got no response, and so I showed up Monday to hopefully visit on my own, and that's when I got told I wouldn't be allowed to visit. And I asked for that in writing. That didn't happen, but then I was able to visit her once, but then never again. So.
Do you recall how long it was before Officer Ferguson told you he was going to declare Khaleesi dangerous, and when you actually got written notice of that determination?
It had been a while because, like I said, on the 8th, he said he was going to label her as dangerous. When I showed up on Monday, it was, I'm going to label her dangerous and ask for her to be put down. And then that's why I couldn't visit her, because she was too aggressive or something. And then I think I got written notice on the 20th or the 21st. The dates were a little wonky. Like, the dates were wrong on the paper. Like, he said 28th on the paper, I think, but it actually got delivered the 21st. So, and then I got them in 3 different ways. I got it posted twice on my fence and then a certified mail, but I think it was the 21st.
May I approach the witness?
You recognize that document?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
The classification letter of a dangerous dog. I don't have
So
to read it. I don't know. Sorry.
it was almost 2 weeks after Officer Ferguson told you the dog was going to be declared dangerous, that you actually received written notice, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And in the meantime, where was Khaleesi?
At animal control.
And are you being charged to keep her there?
I think so. I think he mentioned the first day I dropped her off, $25 a day.
Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Good afternoon, Ms. Kilburn. We met a little earlier today, and nice to see you. Ms. Kilburn, do you deny that these incidents took place?
I deny-
Objection, compound question. We're talking about 4 different incidents.
Do you deny that Khaleesi bit Heather Savage?
Yes.
You deny that Khaleesi bit Julie Vance?
No, I don't think so. I didn't see it, but no. I've said all along I take full responsibility for that. She got out, and if it happened, I'll do what I need to do. I've always said I will do whatever I need to do to get
I
my dog.
understand. But I just want to make clear, you deny that she bit Heather Savage.
Yes, sir. I
Asked
do.
and answered.
Do you deny that she bit Julie Vance?
No.
Did you tell the animal control at any time that you deny that your dog bit Heather Savage?
Yes.
And did they write that down anywhere?
I have no idea what he wrote down.
Have you read the police reports?
Yes. I was given 3, only 3.
In any of those police reports, is there anything in there saying that you deny that your dogs bit anyone?
There can't be, since the police didn't talk to me.
As far as your fence is concerned, are you prepared to take Khaleesi home?
Oh, sorry, I was waiting for more. Yes, definitely. Because even if they don't deem my fence necessary, she'll stay inside until it's done. I've been looking at, I would like some more clarification on the proper enclosure, because I know we've talked a couple different things. I know one incident it was concrete, and the other, like the statute doesn't say anything about a concrete bottom, but I've even been looking at sheds. If I need to buy one of those, what do they call them, the dog? I'll do whatever just to get her home. I mean, but she'll stay inside until it's deemed appropriate.
Are you aware that animal control went by your house this week and inspected your fence? They didn't set foot on your property, but they could see your fence and found it to be insufficient to hold the dog?
No, because nobody's talked to me. But again, I mean, she can be inside.
But you've asked
until-
for the dog back, correct?
Let her answer the question.
Again, nobody has spoken to me about going by my fence or by my yard. But again, I stated I will keep her inside until it meets whatever requirements they deem appropriate.
Okay, you do understand that the fence will have to be fixed?
Yes, sir. And again, I will do whatever it takes.
I don't think I have any other questions for the lady.
Yes. Ms. Kilburn? Are you willing to keep Khaleesi inside at all times except on a leash until this matter is fully resolved?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further.
Anything else? What are the photographs and other documents that we looked at? Yeah.
These,
Well, just the ones that you identified and talked about.
which,
Which ones were
these, the ones that my attorney gave me?
Yes.
Yeah, these are it, but I don't know, did you want me to just pick a few?
Well, you
We can
tested-
make it a composite exhibit.
Yeah, just make it a composite. But let me have those. I'll make it R2. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Who took these photographs? You did? Okay.
When this first got started, I made a separate album, and she's got like 3,000 pictures in it. I've had her since she was 8 weeks old. I flew to Colorado to pick her up, actually, and she's been with me ever since. So
I got a
she's
question.
almost 4 this month.
Tell me about the fence around your yard. How do you keep the dog in?
Do you want to know what kind of fence it is? I'm
Well,
sorry, I'm not.
what facilities do you have to keep the dog on your property?
2 sides are a chain link fence. The Atlantic side, the one that butts up to Atlantic, and then the Plum side are chain link. The back is a wooden fence, and then there is I'm not sure exactly, some kind of maybe chicken wire or some kind of fence on this side in between my house and the vacant house that's right beside me.
How tall is the fence?
Which ones? The ones,
You start with whichever one. I need the height of all of them.
sorry.
Yeah.
The,
Go around the perimeter and tell me.
The wood fence, I'm not bad with this, I'm 5'8", so probably 6 feet roughly. The chain link fence, probably 5 feet. You're asking the wrong person. And the fence in between the 2 yards, maybe 4 roughly. I probably have pictures of them. You can probably see the fence in a few of those, at least a couple of the gates of the pictures
Okay. Is any sign the dog has attempted to dig under the fence?
Sorry, no, sir.
I got nothing further.
I have a couple follow-up questions.
Anything else?
Sorry.
Not from me.
Ms. Kilburn, there was a time that Khaleesi frequently got out of your fence, correct?
When she was younger, I would say probably, yes.
And there have been improvements to the fence since then to prevent that from happening?
Yes.
And who did those improvements?
My dad?
And since the fence has been improved, are you aware of any time that she was at large?
No.
Thank you.
Anything else? I'm going to take prerogative and ask Mr. Ferguson some questions. You can back up here for me, please. You're, thank you. You're free. I appreciate it. Mr. Ferguson, you're still under oath. Mr. Perry referenced just a moment ago some recent inspection of the Kilburn property regarding the adequacy of the fence. Did you make that inspection?
Correct. I also had the photos downloaded into the,
Well, tell me why the county feels the fence is inadequate.
the backyard. Thanks, Chris. I did a preliminary drive
Get a
around.
little closer to the mic for me.
Is that better? Thank you. I did a preliminary drive around. Ms. Savage is in a unusual corner.
We're talking about Kilburn now, the Kilburn property?
I'm sorry, yes, Ms. Kilburn's property. She's on an unusual corner. I don't have to be physically on her property in order to see three sides of the fence. So I actually never even left my vehicle when I took these pictures. The first picture shown above.
Tell me about the pictures. Who took these?
I took these pictures.
When did you take them?
They were done on Tuesday, October 4th at approximately
Do
12:11.
these pictures accurately represent the condition of the property on the date on which you took them?
Correct.
You got physical copies of those?
I do.
All right,
They're in the
go ahead and show
packet.
me the photos and we'll mark them after you identify them. Go ahead.
The first picture
This is October, okay.
is the,
Roll it up, please, so we can get the date. This is October 4th, 2012 at 12:11.
correct.
Okay.
This is on the backside of Ms. Kilburn's property. It shows the, what most people describe as 6x6 field fence, which is not substantial enough to hold back a large dog. It shows only a single post, and that is approximately 10 foot from the other post. The next picture shows from the second post on, and there is no additional post that I could see from the road. This is the front corner off of Palm. This was also taken on October 4th. And I believe this is the corner that Ms. Coburn says that is an external pen that she used for her dogs. On the lower of the fence, you can see where she's tried to make some makeshift blockage for neighbor dogs going into her property, as she stated. The next picture shows a piece of tin behind the fence. I don't know if that was supposed to be for a blockade, but there is a piece of metal on the bottom of the fence, evidently to prevent dogs from digging under the chain link. But as you can see on top of the chain link itself, there's all sorts of foliage, vines, that weighs down the integrity of the fence. This is also another piece of the fence. You can actually not see the fence because of the foliage, so cannot describe the condition of the fence. This is her front gate off of Palm Avenue, and as you can see, anything could walk through. The bottom, it is unhinged. Granted, there is a lock, but a dog could purposely walk right through the bottom of that gate. This is the Atlantic side of her fence, which is approximately 5 foot tall, some foliage in it, but in all condition, it's a pretty well-secure fence for that area. And here's the same situation with the next gate off of Atlantic. It shows that it's chained up. There is a small opening on the bottom, but that appears to be sufficient enough to hold back Khaleesi.
Okay. So, and I haven't, without indicating which way I'm going to go, what's the county's recommended solution that would contain this dog? What would
To-
you ask the owner to?
If she would repair her fence, she could contain the dog in her yard safely. That would be justified once inspection is made. If she wants to keep the dog inside, that is also an obvious solution. The repercussions of if the dog gets out is obviously a legal one. That would be brought up with Interlochen PD. That is why we're not pursuing euthanization for this dangerous dog, because the dog is not causing severe damage.
All right, thank you for that. Now I have, do you have physical copies of those photos?
These photos?
I want
Yes.
to make sure those are entered. Take a composite for the county. Yeah. This will be C12 as a composite. So I do have a question, just for my understanding. The Vance incident occurred over a year ago.
Correct.
Where has this been in life for a year that the county didn't seek some kind of dangerous dog classification at that time?
Because of the severity of the injury, there wasn't enough justification to pursue a dangerous dog at that particular time.
So you're saying
Yes,
that
there was
Vance
a
case
small-
alone is not sufficient to pursue a dangerous dog case?
On the severity of that injury, correct.
I'm sorry?
On the severity of that injury, because it was minor abrasions that broke the skin. Could we have? Possibly. But at that point, we didn't pursue dangerous dog to the severity we are as of the past year.
So what are you pinning this dangerous dog case on?
Being aggressive off property.
Which case?
On all the on the 2 bite victims cases, being aggressive off property is why we're deeming the dog dangerous.
You saying the Vance case wasn't sufficient for aggressive off property to justify a dangerous dog solution?
It did justify it, but at that point, the county was not pursuing dangerous dog on minor injuries. Once this second minor injury occurred, it showed that there's repetition of this dog being off property, being aggressive off property. Whether the dog shows aggression, there was minor aggression towards us at the shelter, which is no here nor there, but obviously we have pictures of my kennel staff sitting with the dog.
So,
The dog,
is it the county's position, I'm trying to understand where you all are.
yes, sir.
Is it the county's position, Mr. Perry, you might want to chip in, and it's part of your argument, but the county cited these 5 incidents. One of them goes back, four of them go back into, looks like 2021.
Correct.
And there was a allegation of a dog snapping at people. Then another one, 3 roaming dogs, 1 black, 2 black and brown, and also in February 21. And then in July of 21 came the large cane corso charged Officer Mendez, which he indicated was an aggressive act.
Correct.
Then you had the Vance incident, which occurred in September 21. And she claimed that the dog attacked her, and she connected the dog to Ms. Wilbur. Then you had the Savage incident. Unfortunately, Ms. Savage isn't here to testify personally regarding that. So are you saying it takes all 5 of these for the county to decide they want to prosecute dangerous dog?
No, sir.
Okay, where am I?
A year ago, the county was not pursuing dangerous dog off of a first incident unless the attack was a severe or incapacitating injury. Now that since I've been on there for a year and a half as a road officer, I've been stepping up the game and reading more into the laws and trying to make the county a safer place for people that own the dogs.
Okay. All right, I haven't, again, without going any one direction, the question is now what, my choices are at the eventual decision. I'm going to wait till a final argument before I make any decision. The ordinance in question, and that would be 6-42 of the county code, says a special magistrate may take one or more of the following actions in nuisance or dangerous dog cases. So I presume this is a dangerous dog case. Obviously, if I don't find there's a dangerous dog, there's no action to take. If there were a dangerous dog finding, require the owner to install measures that will keep the offending dog from being a public nuisance or change the dangerous dog, or if found to be a dangerous dog, may require the dog to be euthanized. The county not asking for euthanization, I presume. All right. So the county's position is there have to be measures to keep the dog on the property.
Correct.
I've got nothing else. Anybody want to follow up with Mr. Ferguson on anything I've asked?
Yes.
Please.
Mr. Ferguson, the definition of a proper enclosure for a dangerous dog includes,
The definition of a proper enclosure.
let me ask my question, please. The definition includes that the dangerous dog is, quote, securely confined indoors, correct?
Correct.
So my client could be in compliance with that without ever touching the fence. Isn't that true?
That is correct.
And she's not required to build a special enclosure outside unless she wants to leave the dog outside unsupervised, correct?
Correct.
So if she kept the dog inside and only allowed it outside on a leash, she would be in compliance with the dangerous dog statute.
That would be a satisfactory yes.
And if she kept the dog inside and only walked it off of a property when it was muzzled, she would be in compliance,
That
correct?
is correct.
So she's not actually required to make improvements to the fence, correct?
Correct.
Did you communicate to her the findings of your inspection after you went by her house?
No.
Are you aware of any incidents of Khaleesi being at large after the Vance incident, other than the supposed incident with Ms. Savage?
The only incident I know particularly is with Officer Mendez.
When was that?
That was a few months prior.
What was the date of that?
I would have to go back in my notes. The Officer Mendez case was on 07/20/21.
7/20/21 was
July
before
20,
September 21st of 2021, was it not? So you're not aware of any incidents in which the dog was at large after the Vance incident?
No.
Can you explain to me what measures are penalties as opposed to measures intended to keep the public safe?
Well, if the dog, after being deemed dangerous, gets out of the public, it's a misdemeanor on her.
You're not answering my question. You've made a recommendation.
Correct.
You're the one who made the initial determination,
Yes.
and you're also supposed to make an initial recommendation regarding the penalty?
Yes.
Okay, what exactly is the penalty that you're recommending be imposed?
For her dog is to be deemed dangerous. The initial contact when she brought the dog in, I saw how the dog reacted. Then I saw how the dog reacted with my kennel staff days after that. So I was leading for euthanization for the dog. After much contact with the dog and being able to be with that dog, I brought that decision down to just being a dangerous dog, and she can keep her dog. That is my decision, and that's when I passed it on to my supervisor and the department head, that we weren't pursuing euthanization of the dog because the severity of the bites weren't needing sutures. So to understand where the dog is coming from, we don't know. But was it being aggressive off property? Most definitely.
Okay. Can you tell me where in either your ordinance or in the state law it says that you should consider the dog's behavior when it's enclosed in a cage with a bunch of strangers?
This is outside of the cage. This is also...
Where in the state law?
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. According to the state law, it says, after investigation, the Animal Control Authority shall make an initial determination as to whether there is sufficient cause to classify the dog as dangerous, and, if sufficient cause is found, as to the appropriate penalty under subsection 5. I'm asking you, what is the appropriate penalty that you have recommended?
Deeming the dog dangerous.
Okay. It's a two-part determination here. Whether there's sufficient cause to classify the dog as dangerous, and if sufficient cause is found, as to the appropriate penalty.
Correct. The first one is we found that the dog was to be deemed dangerous, and we classified the dog as dangerous.
So that's the penalty, that classifying the dog as dangerous?
Correct. If the bites would have been more severe, the penalty would have been euthanization.
Officer, why did it take from September 8th, when you pronounced your determination that it was a dangerous dog, until September 21st to give my client written...
Because I was getting a hold of...
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Written notification.
Because I was getting a hold of the previous victims, looking up previous cases for that area, talking to the officers of that area, and then we had a hurricane, then we were shut down for 3 or 4 days.
Okay, if you had already made up your mind, why did you need to do that?
Once I made the determination and had it signed over, that's when she was notified.
But you told her on September 8th that you were going to classify the dog dangerous based on the police report, didn't you?
Correct.
Why didn't you give her written notice then?
Because I have to get it approved and signed off by my supervisor and my department head. Because I feel that the dog
So
is
did you
dangerous.
make the determination, or did somebody else make the determination?
I made the determination and I presented the facts to them. And if they agree with me, they sign off on it. If they don't agree with me, they don't sign off on it. She got her dog back.
I'm confused. It sounds like your supervisors made the determination that it was a dangerous dog based on your recommendation. Is that right?
Correct.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Perry?
Just one thing. Sir, were you granted the authority to make the determination as to whether or not a dog is dangerous?
Yes.
Thank you.
Follow-up? How and when were you granted that authority?
I'm sorry?
How and when were you granted that authority?
When I was hired by Putnam County as an animal control officer.
Is there anything in writing you can point me to that says Officer Ferguson is...
State statute that animal control officers duly sworn can be and choose to, I would have to look it up to actually know it verbatim, but we have that authority under the county.
Well, what your ordinance says is that the department head shall make that determination. Are you the department head?
I am not the department head. I turn that over to the department head after my supervisor signs off on it.
Is there
I
anything,
make the initial determination. If they agree with me, they sign off on it.
is there anything in writing from the department head designating you the authority to make dangerous dog determinations?
That is the determination. If they agree with me, they will sign off on it.
Could you please answer my question?
I am not. I am answering it to you straightforward.
Is there anything in writing in which the department head has designated to you the authority to determine a dog dangerous? Yes or no?
It is in the state statute.
Is there anything in the ordinance?
No.
Thank you.
Are you a code enforcement officer? Are you a code enforcement officer with the county?
No, I'm an animal control officer.
Is that considered code enforcement? Is that a yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, you are. Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, I'm going to offer both sides an opportunity for summation. Does anybody think they need more than 5 minutes?
No.
Do you? No. Mr. Ferry? No, Mr. Ferry, you get to go first.
I go first?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brown. The question posed to the special magistrate today is relatively simple and straightforward. Does the evidence submitted by the county constitute the competent and substantial proof needed to find that Mrs. Kilbourne's dog, Khaleesi, should be, in accordance with the preliminary determination by the Animal Control Department and the applicable ordinance and statutes, be found to be a, quote, dangerous dog, unquote? And to that end, what evidence has the county provided? Well, number one, the testimony of the animal control officer. Number two, 2 policemen from Interlochen, both of whom identified the dog in question as being aggressive and running wild. And 3, the sworn statement of a victim, Heather Savage. Number 4, the testimony of victim Julie Vance, and the photos of injuries sustained by both Ms. Vance and Ms. Savage. There's been no evidence that these events did not occur in the manner that they were described. Therefore, the evidence is clear, and there can be no doubt that this dog has, in fact, run wild and has bitten at least 2 citizens of Putnam County without provocation. It's the job of the special magistrate, and I don't mean to try and tell you your job, Mr. Brown, but what you have to determine and what the evidence must coincide with is, in section 6.9 definitions, dangerous dog means any dog that, according to Putnam County records, number 1, has aggressively bitten, attacked, or endangered, or has inflicted severe injury on a human being or on public or private property. This does not require a severe injury. It requires an aggressive bite, an attack, or has endangered someone, a human being. And number 3, has, when unprovoked, chased or approached a person upon the streets, sidewalks, or any public grounds in a menacing fashion with or apparent attitude of attack, provided that such actions are attested to in the sworn statement by one or more persons and dutifully investigated by animal control officer. Well, those 2 conditions have been met. This dog has aggressively bitten 2 citizens, and he has, when unprovoked, chased or approached people upon streets, sidewalks, or public grounds in a menacing fashion or apparent attitude of attack. The petitioner's argument throughout this hearing has mostly been that the dog should have been released to them during this period of time when there was an investigation going on. There's been no testimony that, other than Ms. Kilbourne herself, that the events that have been testified to did not happen, when in fact they did happen. And I would also point out to the special magistrate that the defense that the dog could have hurt someone worse than it did is not in fact a defense at all. That is the problem that's facing us here, that we are not looking at the plain and simple facts that this dog did in fact bite 2 citizens of Putnam County and has run wild, and there is ample evidence to prove that. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, your final order needs to be based on competent, substantial evidence. There is no competent, substantial evidence that Ms. Savage was bitten by Khaleesi. There is hearsay evidence. You also have sworn testimony by a witness that showed up that Khaleesi was never out that day. Not only that, but you have sworn testimony from Officer Ferguson that he's not aware of any other incident where Khaleesi has been alleged to have been at large for more than a year. In order to prove that Khaleesi is a dangerous dog, the county was required to prove that either that she has aggressively bitten, attacked, or endangered, or has inflicted severe injury on a human being on a public or private property. There's been no evidence that Khaleesi aggressively bit anyone. The testimony was that Ms. Vance scooped up her dog and got nipped on the rear end as she was retreating. Even Ms. Vance didn't describe it as an aggressive incident. More than once severely killed or injured a domestic animal while off the owner's property. Well, that's clearly not applicable. Finally, has, when unprovoked, chased or approached a person on the streets, sidewalk, or any public ground in a menacing fashion or apparent attitude of attack, provided that such actions are attested to in a sworn statement by one or more persons and dutifully investigated by the appropriate authority. There's been no evidence that Putnam County Animal Control dutifully investigated any of the incidents alleged to have occurred prior to when Ms. Vance was injured. Respectfully, the county has not met its burden of proof, and whether it believes so or not, it is its burden of proof that Khaleesi comes within the definition of a dangerous dog. Khaleesi should be returned to my client post haste. Thank you.
Thank you both. I'm always impressed when the legislature and the county commission give you authority, but don't give you a lot of guidance as to how to fulfill that authority. In this particular case, both the state statute and the county code provide that there shall be a hearing after a determination made by a county animal control concerning whether or not a dog is dangerous. This hearing has now taken place. Ordinance and statute don't really give any guidance regarding the procedures in that hearing, the methodologies to be used in that hearing. Don't find a lot of case law describing what goes on in these hearings either. Usual rules that we try, as council have indicated, to find some substantial and competent evidence that the special magistrate, trier of fact, if you will, finds is sufficient in order to proceed and make a finding one way or the other. In this particular case, and I want to clarify something I know from the county's perspective, the county calls this an appeal. And with all due respect to the county's position, I just can't find where it's an appeal. It just says there's going to be a hearing. And when it says something like that, my general view of it is we're going to treat it what the lawyers like to call a de novo hearing. And for those of you taking Latin, it just simply means, from the start, from new. We're going to treat it like it's a brand new hearing. And that's what we're doing today. So pretty much what's happened in the past is got it here. That's fine. We're here. And the only thing I can do today is make a determination of whether or not the elements of the code or the statute are satisfied regarding whether there's a violation. Counties come up with 5 different scenarios describing dogs on the loose, and are trying to connect those to the dog owned by Ms. Kilburn. I want to mention, I guess at the beginning, starting from the back going first, regarding the Kilburn situation. It's hard for a trier of fact to make assessments of credibility when a witness isn't here. It just is. And that's one of the things that I'm supposed to do. And so from the standpoint of what it is, you can have sworn testimony, but it's difficult for me to assess that and what I believe and don't believe about something because I wasn't here. But we did have other witnesses. We had Julie Vance, we had Officer Mendez, we had Officer, let's see who else was here. Foreman, we got, of course, Mr. Ferguson, and we have Ms. Kilburn herself testifying. Here's what impressed me about this, and this is the things we're going to come down. Mrs. Vance did impress me as somebody I could believe and give some credibility to. I don't think it's disputed that she was injured as a result of being bitten by a dog. Her description of the dog matches reasonably well with the description of Ms. Kilburn's dog. And she identified Ms. Kilburn's dog. And I'm satisfied there was a connection enough to Ms. Kilburn's dog to conclude that it was Ms. Kilburn's dog who attacked and bit Ms. Vance. The ordinance and statute basically talk about aggressively bitten or attacked or endangered someone or was unprovoked, chased, or approached a person on the streets and sidewalks. Either classification would qualify, I think, under what happened to Ms. Vance. With regard to Officer Mendez, he indicated that he did identify the dog being loose. The dog apparently jumped up on his car aggressively, but when he opened the car door, the aggressiveness went away. But nonetheless, the dog was on the loose. I'm satisfied in making a finding under those situations that there's a dangerous dog. Okay? This is a tough case because these kinds of cases have neighborhood implications, and I know there's a lot of interest and a lot of concern about what happens with regard to it. We'll issue an order regarding that and finding it's a dangerous dog. The only thing I can do, the county's not seeking euthanization, I certainly don't think it's merited, but the only thing I can do is make sure that the dog is contained. And I got to say, some of the photos of the fencing and so forth get leads to questions of whether it's going to keep the dog in, and that needs to be addressed. What everybody to understand, classifying it as a dangerous dog has implications. You don't want to have it happen again. In that they may appeal. I understand that. That's their prerogative. But nonetheless, until that happens, you need to be circumspect in making sure the dog's under control in that regard. I hope this has been instructive for everybody, and I'll just make a comment to the county. It is a procedure that requires some preparation and control, and I think you'll get improved as that goes along. But nonetheless, my job is to try to find some substantial and competent evidence to support that decision. Having said that, I want to thank everyone for their participation today, and I'll get an order out as soon as possible. Order will go to Ms. LaHaye and go to Mr. There being nothing further, we're going to adjourn today's proceedings at 3:34. Thank you.